Welcome to another video tutorial from 2dgameartguru.com. Today I'm working in Affinity Designer to show you some creative uses of the multiple strokes on the same object. I will be using solid lines, dashed lines, tapered strokes and different blend modes. Draw a straight line using the pen tool. The common things to change with a solid line are the caps, maybe the pressure curve, the width and the color. In this tutorial I'll be looking at the options that the appearance panel offers. I have my stroke in there. I can duplicate it, make it thinner, change the color from black to white, duplicate it again, make it even thinner and set it to black again. I can scale the result, I can curve it, and my 5 visual lines react as one, as they are one. I can change the color, add brushes, I can add gradients to these strokes and they still will react as one. I could add more strokes in the appearance panel, make it 6 strokes, 9, 12, as many as I need for my design. Let's apply the stroke to a shape. I create a circle, copy my stroke and paste it. In version 1 it plays up, but it's quite obvious that a stroke of 16,000 plus points is a little too big. Once I fix that, it looks alright. I can alter my shape, I can modify it, turn it into a square, and the stroke adjusts without problems. Those are the basics. The magic happens when you mix stroke styles and mix solid lines with dashed lines. I duplicate my black stroke at the bottom, set it to white and turn that black stroke into a dashed line. By adjusting the dash pattern to a short line with a short gap, I create what looks like squares, which is basically just covered up by the white underneath. When I change the blend mode of the white to negate and the blend mode of the black on top to contrast negate, I have a checkered pattern that I can curve with the node tool. As long as I don't go into extremes, sharp corners can deform the pattern and mess it up. You might say that this can easily be done with a brush as well. The advantage of this approach is that I'm still working with expandable brushes. I can curve it, the pattern adjusts to the curve. I can go in and expand, and I have 4 curves that I can manipulate, adjust with the node tool or combine. If I combine them with a Boolean XOR, the effect is similar to the blend mode negate used on the strokes prior, except now I have vector shapes. The best part about it is the simplicity. It's one line with 4 strokes assigned to it. Let's change the line from butt caps to round caps. With the round caps I can create dotted lines. I set the dash pattern to 0 for the first value, which gives me a circle, and then adjust the second value to give me the gaps between my circles. I can duplicate that one, adjust the width, nothing else, and by changing the color of both strokes I get a nice decorative pattern. Let's create a dashed line again. Affinity Designer copies the last setting to the new line, so I get the round caps, I change them to butt caps, set the first value to 1 and then assign the gap as a smaller value. The result is a line of square tiles. The pressure curve is not applicable to a dashed line, but there's a workaround to that. I turn my line to solid instead of dashed and create a duplicate on top. Increase the width slightly so it overlaps the blue line, and the yellow line now gets a small first value for the dash and a larger value for the gap. Once I set this stroke to erase, it will cut out parts of the underlying blue line, which is a solid stroke and allows me to add pressure curve to it. I use this little workaround to create a tapered dashed line. I used this effect in a tutorial on creating mosaic patterns. Having the ability to erase parts of a stroke with other strokes on top offers a whole lot of possibilities. By playing around with the different settings of the dash, the solid versus the gaps, I can create interesting patterns. Sometimes it helps to set the stroke back to normal to see its pattern before setting it back to erase. Once you have an interesting line, duplicate it, create variations, and play around with the different options of dash versus solid, erase versus normal, and see what happens. Some patterns might look familiar. If I take this one and take it a step further, I can create a ladder or a railroad track by making the vertical lines larger. It's a lot easier when it's just one color. How about making the railroad track multicolored? Is it possible? Yes, it is. Let's take the railroad track and modify it. The vertical lines, a dashed stroke at the top, can be colored. Now my background is not ideal. Let's change the background to green. Give the tracks a metal color. Once I place the other two strokes on top of my dashed line, it becomes erased as well. I duplicate it, place it at the top, and adjust the width to the width of the erase stroke, and adjust the dash pattern of this one to match the larger one at the bottom. I have a multicolored railroad track. While playing around with the dash pattern, let's try something else. I take a solid stroke at the base, a larger one on top with a changed dash pattern, another duplicate on top of that with a different dash pattern again, and another one, and I create what looks like a mirrored skyline. I could now add some lights with rectangles or with a line that has a lot of lights. Here I have the water line to cover and make it more believable, plus a duplicate version of the line slightly enlarged behind it and set to a lower opacity. I can also mix random shapes to create interesting patterns, which leads me to more real-life applications like the holes of a binder page by using a round cap erased from a solid line. Variations are key, and you might not need them right now, but you know how to create them when you need them. Adding another two strokes to this line, for example, reminds me of the platforms of the Donkey Kong game, even though I know they look different for all those hardcore Donkey Kong fans out there. When playing around with multi-stroke lines, the possibilities are endless. It's a matter of time you're willing to invest into it. Adjusting dotted lines to match up takes a little bit of fiddling, but it can lead to great effects. The pink line, for example, has 9 strokes stacked on top of each other, using different caps, different dash patterns, different colors, and different opacities. The one thing all these designs have in common is that they are always symmetrical. Either side, top and bottom of the line are the same. In this video, I used solid lines, dashed lines, tapered strokes, and various blend modes on a single object with multiple strokes. As always, this is an invitation. Have fun with the concept, play around with it. Some things might be useful, others just might look cool. It is a function that is definitely worth looking into if you have not played around with the appearance panel and multiple strokes on a single object. Please check it out. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, please subscribe to my channel, click on the notification icon, leave a like, and I will see you again soon.